Today's video is sponsored by I Trust Capital, but more on that later. These days I've been seeing a lot of posts on things like 5 things you need to do to become a millionaire, 5 jobs, or different types of incomes to become a millionaire. So I was really curious on what kind of tips and advices were actually out there on the internet. So I Googled how to become a millionaire, and the first article that came up was this guy. That is right, his name is Dave Ramsey. And I personally really enjoy the teachings of Dave Ramsey, and after all, he is worth $200 million, so why not take advice from him? The article shares on 8 tips on how to become a millionaire. So in this video, I'm going to be going over every single one of the steps and what I think about them and whether you should follow them or not. Now, a quick disclaimer, I am not a millionaire, so this is not a advice from a millionaire, but that's why we're going through this article together, so that one day we can take those steps in achieving financial freedom. So let's begin. Now, the first tip he shares is to stay away from debt. And this is a very obvious one from Dave Ramsey, especially when he's the icon of stay away from credit cards, cut your credit cards up, stay away from debt, become debt free. Now, if you are a regular investor, business owner, or an entrepreneur, you know that there is something called good debt, right? Good debt versus bad debt. Bad debt is essentially consumer debt, right? Going into debt because of entertainment, food, things that don't produce income, or just bad investments overall. Or it's not even investments, right? It's just you're just spending and going into debt. And then we have something called good debt, which is mortgages or anything business related, or investing into an asset that produces income. But in Dave Ramsey's world, there is no such thing as good debt or bad debt. There is just debt, and all debt is bad. Now, if you are the 1% who knows how to leverage your debt, then you obviously don't need to be watching this video because you are obviously a millionaire, right? But for the 99% who are in consumer debt, I 100% agree you should get out of debt, and all debt is bad debt. And that means your credit card and your student loans and just loans in general. Stay away from them, stay away from debt. And I 100% agree with this, because when you're in debt, that debt will become your master and you will become a slave to your debt. Your debt will tell you what you can and cannot do, where you can and cannot go, what you can and cannot eat, or who you can hang out with, who you cannot hang out with. And anytime you want to enjoy life, you have this weight behind your back telling you, hey, remember, you can't do those things, or you can't spend that money because you have like this much amount of debt behind you. Therefore, when you are always in debt, you will never properly able to save, and you will never properly be able to invest. Which leads to tip number 2 and 3, which is to invest early and consistently, and make saving a priority. Could you invest while you're in debt? Absolutely, right? You can invest anytime you want, but most people will be better off paying off their debt and credit cards and loans, and then investing much more aggressively afterwards. Most people invest into index funds such as the S&P 500, which will give you an average return of 10% every single year. But the average interest rate of credit cards in 2020 is 16%. So even if you're able to do both, right, invest and pay off your debt at the same time, most likely the interest rate on your debt will outrun your investments, and you will lose out more in the long run. So once you are out of debt, you will be able to invest much more aggressively, and that investment will also compound much more aggressive, making your investment much more worth it in the future. Now, just because you invest does not mean you'll become a millionaire. There is also a second layer to that, which is how much you invest also matters. For example, if you started with $500 to invest, and every single year you decided to invest $3,000, which is around $250 a month, and then you do that for the next 30 years with an interest rate of 10%, then the future value of your $90,000 investment will be worth $550,000. Now, that is a pretty good return, right? But you won't become a millionaire in 30 years. But what if we double down and we paid $6,000 every single year, which is approximately $500 a month for the next 30 years? Your $180,000 investment is now worth approximately $1.1 million. So just because you decided to add an additional $250 every single month, you are now sitting on an extra $500,000 by the end of your 30 years. Let's do that for 40 years. Yeah, you'll be sitting at almost $3 million, which is fantastic. Now you might be watching this and being like, Eddie, $500 a month, it is too much. What if I can't invest $500 every single month? Well, that is why we're going to go on to tip number 4, which is you have to increase your income to reach your goal faster. Before I go on to the next tip, I want to thank our sponsor for today's video, which is I Trust Capital. Now, as most of you guys know, I am heavily invested into cryptocurrency, but what if I can tell you that you can retire with cryptocurrency? This is where I Trust Capital comes in. Every single month, I contribute to my Roth IRA and buy into traditional index funds such as as the S&P 500, NASDAQ, and the total market. But now I'm able to allocate a certain percentage of my portfolio into Bitcoin and maybe a few other altcoins. iTrust Capital is like any other brokerage account where you can buy and sell cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano. They even have Doge, and they have a ton of other cryptocurrencies. They are continuing to add on more. This is a great way just to buy Bitcoin and hold long term until you retire, because this is an IRA account. That means that all the profits you make completely tax-free. The digital asset wallet providers for iTrust Capital are Coinbase, which is amazing, and Curve, right, which is acquired by PayPal. And so for me, in terms of security, it really can't get any better than this. iTrust Capital is the #1 crypto IRA, which is also the world's largest crypto IRA, holding around $1 billion worth of assets. If you guys want to sign up for a free account, all you got to do is enter in your email, use the promo code MOON, MOON. Definitely check them out, and eventually I will create a separate video on the platform just to go over everything with you guys. Now, this part is actually a lot harder than it sounds. People will say, just increase your income, go get an extra job, work more hours. But the reality is that some people in their certain circumstances and situation are not able to do that. But on the other hand, the reality is that there is no other way to increase your income but to do it that way. You know, when I was working at my restaurant, anytime someone needed time off or needed a cover, I would immediately try to fill that cover up so that I can fill up more hours. I would sleep an average of 4 hours every single day because I took on so much extra work. And I tried a lot of things, right? I started screen printing, I started a YouTube channel, I tried affiliate marketing, started trading. And you don't have to think big or think in thousands. All you gotta do is just start small. What you should do right now is go to your bank statement and add up all the bills that you have. Say it adds up to somewhere around $250. All you have to do is figure out a way to earn an extra $250 by taking on more shifts or starting a new job or just a new side something. By increasing your income, you'll be able to achieve your goals much, much quicker. Now, I want to share another perspective that might help you a lot. Now, a lot of people make this mistake of thinking about it's making more money. People are always like, I got to make more money. I got to make more money. But that really is not the focus. That shouldn't be the focus. It is about the person you must become to make the money you make. That means that you have to invest into yourself and develop your characters and do what the rest of the 99% aren't willing to do, aren't willing to sacrifice, so that you can become that 1%. Investing into yourself never ends, right? I am on this continuous journey of always and constantly trying to learn and educate and grow and invest into myself. I remember I tried so hard to save $10,000, and it took me an entire year to do so. And it was one of my proudest moments of my life. But as I was continuing to invest into myself, I remember one summer I made 10 grand in a month. Then it took me about a year to save and pay off $100K in debt, but to only make it back within the first 3 months of 2021. So I've learned over the years that you should never really focus on the money or like how much you make, because that is really irrelevant. It is really about how you make your money and the person you must become to make what you make. And the key word is going to be sacrifice. I think if you talk to any entrepreneur or business person or anyone who just started their own thing, when you mention the word sacrifice, they're going to be like, yeah, that's a big word. That's a heavy word, because they're going to reflect on all the things that they had to sacrifice in order to get to where they are today. Tip number 5 is to cut unnecessary expenses. Now, this should be an obvious one, but I think the key word here is unnecessary. I think you really have to filter out what you need and don't need. We're talking about subscriptions, clothes, food, entertainment, things you don't need, electronics that you don't need. Is it really necessary for you to go out and spend $30 every single day on food, or could you go grocery shopping and meal prep and eat at home for $4 a day? But on the other hand, if reviewing food and doing food stuff is your career, is your vocation, that is necessary. Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, Spotify, these are things you can group up with a group of friends or families and split the bill and share accounts. So try to cut all unnecessary expenses first, even if you think you might need it. And then when you really actually do need it, that is when you can resubscribe to it or buy it. Tip number 6, keep your millionaire goal front and center. There are around 51.8 millionaires all around the world, and there are 7.8 billion people all over the world. That is less than 1% of the world's population. That means that statistically, we are more likely to be in the 99.4% range rather than the 0.65%. That means that we have to do things differently. And again, it's about the person you must become versus how much you make. You know, we live in a world of social media where it causes comparison that makes us fall into the trap of consumerism. People are trying to impress people when people are really impressing nobody. Set goals and focus on them. There is so much noise out in the world telling you this is what you gotta do, this is what you gotta look like, this is what you gotta buy, but you have to block those out and stay focused on your goals. Tip number 7 is to work with an investing professional. Now, I've noticed two types of people when it comes to investing. The first group of people are the ones that are willing to pay somebody a fee to manage their portfolio. The second is to actually be a little bit more hands-on, up to date on the market, and manage their own portfolio. Now, there's nothing wrong with either of them, actually. If you're the type of person where you don't want to manage anything, but you're willing to pay somebody a fee to manage your portfolio, great. I think that's a great option, right? I think a lot of people prefer that route, but what I personally recommend is to take an investing course from somebody that you want to learn from. Once you learn how to invest, you will learn how easy it is to invest. You could literally buy one specific type of fund, like a target date fund or just an index fund or two types of funds for the rest of your life, and you will not have to pay anybody a fee. Because if you're starting young, like at the age of 18, those fees will eventually add up over the years by the time you retire. Like every single month and year, all I do is buy the same index funds, and all I gotta do is just move my money over, invest into it, and never touch it ever again. So I do agree with tip number 7, where, you know, should you work with an investing professional if that's the route you choose? But I do recommend taking an investing course if you can, because I think it's really nice for people to understand how the market works, how the economy works, and understand what they're investing into so they're not freaking out anytime the market is crashing or going down. And tip number 8, put it on repeat. Now, for you to get to where you want to get to, you really have to be consistent in what you do. But there are people out in this world who will do things consistently wrong. So it is important that you do the right things consistently. That means getting out of debt, saving, investing, increasing your income, becoming the person you need to become over how much you make. Because once you become the person you want to become, you just be that person and you are literally living your life on repeat, but in a good way, right? You are consistently investing, you are constantly giving, you are constantly helping. There's one book that I highly recommend and I read on a yearly basis, which is called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. If you take that book to a cafe and really focus, you can finish it in a day. It's a really easy read, but that book really motivated and helped me to be consistent in the things that I was doing, even when no one was watching, even when no one was listening. I was doing the right things consistently, but it was also very, very boring. But when you do that consistently, it will compound, and over time, you will see results out of nowhere. I'll leave a link to that book down below. Check it out. Highly recommended. Now, becoming a millionaire should never be idolized, right? I don't think we should ever pray and ask to become a millionaire. That's one of the most ridiculous goals ever. And it's because we should never define ourselves by how much money we have or never place our identity in money. Money cannot buy you more time. Money cannot buy you love or happiness. Yes, it can solve a lot of problems, which is very needed around the world, but at the end of the day, becoming a millionaire is just a status, right? When you make your first million, nothing should change about you. When I make my first million, nothing's gonna change about me, right? I'm still gonna be wearing the same hat. I'm gonna be wearing a $5 t-shirt and the same type of shoes that I've been wearing for the past 10 years. I'm still gonna make coffee from home, go grocery shopping, and stay around the community that I still hang around with today. So although making your first million can seem kind of far away or out of reach, it is very possible if you take the right steps. After all, take an advice from who is worth $200 million, Dave Ramsey. I've been following them for years, and I 100% agree with everything Dave Ramsey shared on 8 tips to become a millionaire. Well, that'll be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave it down below. If there are any other tips that you guys want to share, leave them down as well. I'm curious, interested. But other than that, guys, I will see you guys in the next video. Over. Good night, good morning. Adios.